Hey, good morning. Today is day 21 of Considering Christ in Christmas, and today we're focusing on the wise men mentioned in Matthew chapter 2. You may recall yesterday we considered the shepherds visiting baby Jesus in Bethlehem's manger. Today we're considering these wise men who did visit Jesus, but they visited him at a much later point. But both the wise men and the shepherds, they serve as witnesses of the coming of the Christ child. You may ask, why are these men considered so wise? Well, clearly they were wise enough to have some understanding of the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament. Their question, where is he that is born King of the Jews, implies that they were looking for the Old Testament's promised Messiah. Further, they were wise enough to understand some things about the stars. And isn't that interesting how the star led them? It's very likely that they were familiar with Numbers 24:17, which indicates that there shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. That passage may or may not apply to the star that guided those wise men, but certainly stars are a part of God's creation, and it is a biblical truth that God reveals himself to us through his creation. These men were wise enough to be able to observe God's creation, and it led them to God's Messiah. And I love how verse number 9 explains that the star led them to the precise location where this young child was. That's incredible. It feels like magic, you might say. These wise men are often referred to as Magi, which does mean magician. However, I believe the star leading them was more of a miracle than it was magical. In verse number 11, they arrive at the house where they fell down and worshiped him. And of course they did. Remember, they understood that he was born King of the Jews, and this king deserves worship. And one way they worshiped him is by presenting gifts to him: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Many people think that there were 3 wise men because there were 3 gifts. But in actuality, the Bible doesn't say how many wise men there were. May have been more, may have been less. When I was a teenager, somebody asked me what my favorite Christmas hymn was, and I answered, "We Three Kings." And it was later that I found out that they weren't kings and that there may not have been 3 of them. The wise men were not only wise based on all the things I've previously mentioned, but also they were wise enough to know that they shouldn't obey Herod, as is recorded in Matthew 2. They chose to obey God rather than man in an Acts 5:29 kind of way. They were warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, so what did they do? They departed into their own country another way. It's interesting that the Christmas narratives include a measure of civil disobedience. These wise men were wise on many levels. If you would, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, and please comment below with your feedback. And don't forget to join me tomorrow for day number 22 of this 25-day series through which we are together considering Christ in Christmas.